Let us pray. Almighty God, who in wisdom and goodness have appointed the office of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with abundant favor as your servants whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests are committed to our church. Amen. Proceed.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
The chair of the Committee on Delegated Legislation.
Thank you, Speaker. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, November 21, 2019. The report of the Committee of Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Companies Regulations 2019, Legal Notice 134 of 2019.
Dr. Makali Mulu, there's something you are supposed to table.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 21st, 2019. Report of the proceedings of the 50th CPA Africa Region Conference held in Zanzibar, United Republic of Tanzania from 30th August to 5th September 2019. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Lands. The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Lands.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, November 21st, 2019. Reports of the Departmental Committee on Lands on its consideration of the following petitions. 1. Petition by the residents of Kuresoi North constituency regarding allocation of land to the Kuresoi Divisional Headquarters. 2. Petition by Mr. Philip Juguna on behalf of Kandara Residents Association regarding irregular renewal of leases of land by Del Monte Kenya Limited. 3. Petition by the residents of Ikolomani constituency regarding delayed compensation of landowners for the expansion of Sigala Gala, Musoli, Bukura, Butere Road, number D260. 4. Petition by the Matisi community regarding compensation of land owned by the community along Kitale Entebbe's Swam Road. And 5. Petition by Ms. Juliet Nyaguthi regarding public access and use of public utility plots in Nakuru East Ward in Nakuru County. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to take.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Vice Chairperson, Committee on Delegated Legislation.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Committee of Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Companies Regulation 2019, legal notice number 134 of 2019, laid off the table of the House on Thursday, November 2019, and pursuant to the provision of Section 18 of the Statutory Instrument Act 2013 and Standing Order 210-4B, annuls the Regulations 26.2 and Regulations 42 of the said regulations. Thank you.
Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
First question by the member for Roysambu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to ask question number 501 of 2019 directed at the Minister, the Cabinet Secretary for RADS and Physical Planning. 1. What is the status of ownership of LAD reference number 71/1, which was originally set aside for Kamuthi Farmers Cooperative Society Limited in Loisabu constituency for public purposes? 2. What action is the ministry taking to cancel the illegal subdivisions and fraudulent allocations of land hived off from the said public utility? And number 3, when will the ministry issue title deeds to the members of Kamuthi Society and also for the public utility? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the question is to be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. Next question by the member for Madeira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to ask question number 507 of 2019, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of beneficiaries under the Inua Jamii program in Madeira West and East sub-counties? 2, could the Cabinet Secretary further provide the number of residents of Madeira constituency under the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program who are yet to receive their benefits since they were registered? 3, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why beneficiaries under the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program in Madera constituency have stopped receiving their payments? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question to be replied before the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. Next question by the member from Mombasa County, the Honorable Masha.
Thank you,
Asha,
Mr. Speaker.
Mama.
My question goes to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. How many school leavers are yet to receive their school certificate from their former learning institutions due to fee balances in Mombasa County? 1. Second, could the Cabinet Secretary state the action taken against secondary schools that are yet to release Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education certificate to all former students in Mombasa County in compliance with the government directive of July 2014? Third, it's omitted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That question.
Very well, to be responded to before the Committee on Education and Research. Next question by the member for Kacheliba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask a question to the Cabinet Secretary for Energy, question 509 of 2019. Honorable Speaker, my question is, when will the construction of Konyao Kasai electricity line in Kacheliba be completed, considering that it was started 7 years ago and it has stalled? Honorable Speaker, my question number 2 also goes to the same ministry. As to what plans does the ministry have to address the frequent power outages in the following towns: Kacheliba, Orolwo, Kodich, Konyao, Losam, Natemeri, Kiwawa, Alale, and many other centers that many other centers in Kacheliba constituency which have been affected due to power failure, affecting businesses and damaging household equipments as well as hospital equipments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, to be responded to before the Committee on Energy. Finally, question by the member for West Pokot County, the Honorable Tommy Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll ask question 510 of 2019. My first question is, could the Commission explain why Ms. Martha Lorot, TSC number 369861, a teacher living with disability and a single mother teaching at Alale Primary School in Kacheliba constituency of West Pokot, was transferred to Trans Nzoia County about 600 kilometers away from her former school under the teachers' delocalization policy. Mr. Speaker, my second question is that following the delocalization policy, which clearly states that the teachers living with disability be exempted from the transfers on delocalization, could the Commission exempt teachers living with disability from these arbitrary transfers through delocalization policy? My last question, Mr. Speaker, states that could the Commission consider reversing the transfers of the said teacher, Madam Martha Lorot, taking into account her disability status? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Question to be forwarded to the Teacher Service Commission for a written reply to the questioner. Next order. Sorry, statements. We have a statement by, request for statement by the Honorable Jude Jomo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Affairs regarding pending bills in respect to construction of single accommodation works for the Department of Defense. Honorable Speaker, it is of concern that there have been outstanding pending bills with respect to works being undertaken by Department of Defense, DOD, on construction of other ranks single accommodation. The project was initiated on or about the year 2011, covering various stations, barracks, and bases. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on the following. What is the completion status of projects, total cost, and how much has been paid to date? What is the total amount certified for payment to contractors? How much has been paid to date, and how much is pending bills? Could the ministry give names of consultants appointed to provide professional services for the project and their countries of origin? What is the total amount invoiced by the professional consultants? How much has been paid to date, and how much is pending? What measures has been put in place by the ministry to clear all outstanding bills related to the said projects? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Chair Defense and Foreign Relations is just right in front of you. Could you give an indication as to when he can respond?
When is today? Thursday. Mr. Speaker, maybe Thursday next week?
Very well.
Yep.
Yes, Honorable Duale.
Sorry, actually not.
Speaker, there is a direction by government that all pending bills should be paid by 30th of this month. So I hope the chair, as he brings the statement, he also brings the check, a copy of the payment to the member, because Thursday next week is very close to the deadline. So I hope you not bring that as he can bring documentation showing that those people, Kenyans, have been paid their money.
Yes, Honorable Kato.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not actually disputing what the leader of majority is saying. I wanted to amend my earlier commitment of Thursday next week, because I've just remembered the whole of next week, the Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations will be in Mombasa, with your permission, actually together with the Committee on Justice for a seminar up to that day, 28th, which is Thursday next week. So please allow me to respond the other Thursday. That will be, according to the House calendar, 5th. We might be adjourning.
Well, maybe you'll be saying that the bills have already been paid. Yes.
The Speaker, now you see, Honorable Kato is picking the last day. And the next time this House, as per the calendar, is going to resume is somewhere in February. Speaker, so, Mr. Speaker, I want you to use your powers now. Yes, to ask the committee that they give an answer before the House goes on recess, so that the member can, and the House can get a recourse. But if he does it on the 5th, then that means that he can bring any answer, and then the payment will not be made.
You give it on Wednesday? Very well. The statement by Honorable Marwa, Kuria East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing on rehabilitation of roads that are of security importance to this country. Honorable Speaker, the ministry maintains and rehabilitates certain roads that are said to be of security importance in the country. noting their role in enhancing security and ensuring that critical government services are provided, such as immigration, revenue collection, as well as managing international boundaries. These roads include, and not limited to, Kababu C13 junction in Migori, Suna West constituency, that connects Isibania one-stop border post in Kuria West constituency, Nyamtiro one-stop border post in Kuria East constituency, Kopanga one-stop border post in Suna West constituency, and Loliondo C13, which is in Kilgoris constituency. And other roads, including in Boni Forest in Lamu County, among others. Honorable Speaker, the road in Migori County connecting the 3 one-stop border posts has not been maintained since 2016. And as such, the residents of Migori County and specifically Kuria East constituency, as well as foreigners visiting Kenya through the border points, are unable to transport their produce to the market, and are unable also to take their sick to hospitals because the roads are in pathetic situation, and they suffer great indignity, Mr. Speaker, in transporting their dead through Tanzania for them to be able to access back to their homes so that they can bury their dead. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, the ministry directed the Kera Regional Manager Migori to present estimates for rehabilitation of this road to gravel engineering standards, which was costed at Kenya shillings 350 million. Honorable Speaker, it is on account of the current neglect of this key road that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing on the following. A, which state department is responsible for the construction and rehabilitation of roads that are said to be of security importance in this country? Mr. Speaker, this I ask because when you go to the Ministry of Interior,
you have asked the question. No, don't give us
within which specific timelines is the ministry going to undertake rehabilitation of the said security road? C, what is the status of the of rehabilitation and budgetary allocations of all other roads that are regarded as security roads in this country? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chair who is in front of you can tell us when he wants to give a response. Honorable Singh.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will respond in 2 weeks. But, Honorable Speaker, there is nothing called security road. There is no classification of a road that is called security road, Honorable Speaker. But I'll bring the answer in 2 weeks. But there is no classification in roads called security. But I will give those which he has asked.
He's a new member, so
maybe he's
a new member. Maybe in Kuria East there are some which are classified as such. But you'll give all that in your statement.
But I wanted to give him that advance notice. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. No, we are not going. You see, this is the problem with some of these new members who come and you don't even want to learn the basics. Now you think that is debate. Statement is not debate. Response by the Honorable Mele, Chair of Education. The Honorable Mele, you have to give a response to the request for statement.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on 19th of September, Honorable Kaluma sought a statement from the Teacher Service Commission concerning a number of issues. One of it was the interdiction of teachers. He also sought a statement on the wrangles between the Teacher Service Commission and the Kenya National Union of Teachers. Honorable Speaker, the Teacher Service Commission on 16th of October sent a statement which we as a Committee of Education, we looked at it, perused through it, and we realized that it was not answering certain pertinent issues. Honorable Speaker, we returned that particular statement, and the Teacher Service Commission wrote a statement again, and we've looked at it, and as a committee, we were satisfied that it has actually looked into a number of the issues that was raised by Honorable Kaluma. So, Honorable Speaker, allow me to read the statement as it is. And it goes like this, that the statement gives a background to the cause of the interdiction, the particulars of the professional misconduct of the teachers, the regulations that the teachers contravened, how the Teacher Service Commission conducted the investigations and their findings.
Sorry,
And lastly,
Honorable Meli. Is the Honorable Peter Opondo Kaluma in the
yes,
chamber?
He's in the chamber here.
I was looking for him at his usual place.
Yes, he's next to me.
Very
so
well,
that he
very
can-
well, very well. I think he came closer to you to,
Thank you.
to get the answer. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, on 23rd of April 2019, during the first day of the CBC training, some few teachers forcefully gained entry into training venues and disrupted, incited, physically restrained, assaulted, or caused total chaos by forcefully and violently chasing away teachers who were peacefully undergoing training. Other teachers who constituted head teachers, deputy head teachers, senior teachers, assistant teachers boycotted, refused, and rebelliously ignored to attend the training despite invitation by the commission field officers. That is the background to the whole issue. The particulars of the professional misconduct: that the teachers were positively identified to have conducted themselves in a professional manner that did not only ridicule the dignity of the teaching profession, but also violated the terms and conditions of the employment contracts, in that they violated or disrupted the training by tearing training materials, B, violently ordered teachers to vacate the training centers, physically assaulted commission officers who were conducting the training, D, used abusive words against the officers organizing the training, E, violently shouted down the commission officers conducting the training, F, broke chairs and generally caused chaos, disrupting the peaceful training that was taking place, G, generally incited teachers to boycott the training, H, refused and rebelliously failed to attend the CBC training, I, insubordinated their supervisors who had invited them for training, J, neglected their duties as the lead educators and instructional leaders, and K, violated the right of learners to access quality education. They have gone ahead also to indicate the regulations that the teachers contravened. And the regulations are, number 4, that taken general, the teachers violated the following legal provisions. A, Article 43 and 53 of the Constitution, read together with the Children's Act, which guarantees learners the right to basic quality education. B, Clause 9 of the Public Officers Conduct and the Ethics Act, which requires a public officer to, among others, 1, carry out duties in a way that maintain public confidence in the integrity of his office. 2, treat the public and his fellow public officers with courtesy and respect. 3, to the extent appropriate to this office, seek to improve the standard of performance and level of professionalism in his organization. 4, if a member of professional body, observe the ethical and professional requirements of that body. 5, observe official working hours and not be absent without proper authorization or reasonable cause. And 6, discharge any professional responsibilities in a professional manner. C, specifically the teacher's conduct was contrary to regulations 140B, subclause 1, 4, and 5 of the Code of Regulations for Teachers. The regulations prohibits any form of professional misconduct, including incitement, negligence of duty, and insubordination. How the Teacher Service Commission conducted investigations. They have indicated, in accordance with the provisions of the Code of Regulations for Teachers, the Commission, through its various county directors, issued show cause letters to all teachers who were positively identified to have engaged in professional misconduct, including those in the private sector who are attending the CBC training. 6, the Commission conducted its own investigation on the matter obtain witness statement and reports that confirm that the teachers violated the provisions of the CRT. 7, upon considering the teachers' responses to the show cause letters, the respective TSC county directors formed the opinion that the teachers had a case to answer. Accordingly, the county directors issued letters of interdiction to the affected teachers. 8, the teachers were invited on hearing before the commissions, for hearing before the commission's disciplinary committee, where the individual cases were heard and decisions were made based on the merits of each case as required under the employment law. They've also indicated that the teachers, when a decision has been made, they have a recourse for appeal. All teachers in the teaching service has been made aware of the appeal process, which is enshrined in Section 46 of the TSC Act and Regulation 156 of the CRT. So far, 41 appeals have been received and are under process. The same will be concluded in due course as per the provisions of the CRT. Honorable Speaker, with me is a list of the affected teachers. All of them, there were 245. The Teacher Service Commission has listed how they have handled their cases. They have given the details of their name, the school they are teaching, the TSC number, the sub-county, the county, the designation, whether he's a teacher or an assistant teacher or a deputy head teacher, the nature of the offense, and they have also indicated a column of the kind of disciplinary action they have taken. A number of teachers actually were issued show cause letters, others, their cases are pending. So the one I've read, the 41 cases where they have made appeals, are the teachers who had been dismissed. So they have made appeal, and they have indicated here that the appeal is in process. So the procedure of appeal is fairly informal. The affected teachers are required to write letters setting out their grounds of appeal. They must do so within 90 days from the date of dismissal. So with me, I have the details that have been given on the number of teachers. There are so many, and I cannot read each one. I think I'll table this so that for each member to see. On questions B, C, and D, the Commission indicated that the issues are subject to active litigations and are pending in a court of law. So therefore, they actually did not give a statement on that because the issues that had been raised are active in court, and therefore it will be sub judice. I table, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Kaluma.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the chair of the committee did not give me a copy of the statement before he read it. And Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious matter. You heard, Mr. Speaker, when I raised the issue, indicated that in some of them, even with the limitations of procedures under requests for statements, there can be a bit of comments from the members. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to request that I be allowed, like my other colleagues, to read this statement. Because as I did communicate when I sought response, Mr. Speaker, some of the teachers affected here have since died, up to about 3 of them, whose details I already have. I was not notified by my colleague that he was going to read it. I didn't imagine it would be in this manner. But he has done his part. As Speaker, allow me the opportunity to read through the statement. I am a lawyer. I hope the matters being said to be sub judice are indeed sub judice and have been duly explained as such. And then allow me, Mr. Speaker, when we come next, if there are issues, because it's a matter of concern to the public and to the Parliament, if there are issues, I raise them having duly perused the statement. If you only would permit, Mr. Speaker. This is a very serious matter. There are constitutional issues, there are legal issues, there are matters directly affecting a sector which is very crucial to the economy, more so at this time. I did indicate to the chair of the committee and members of the committee that depending on the response coming from TSC, other sanctions, if the matters are not being treated seriously, may follow. And it is a matter over which, Mr. Speaker, we have to alert and caution that given a chance, we can then come properly to treat. If it is requiring merely raising, we will do so, Mr. Speaker. But if it requires that the issues which will be raised in the report requires other parliamentary procedures, Mr. Speaker, I'll equally invoke them at the right time. But allow that I don't rebut immediately or raise any issues. I read the statement so that I speak from due information on the statement, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
When is the next sitting of the Committee on Education? Honorable Mele, sorry. When is your committee meeting next?
We are meeting on Tuesday and on Thursday next week.
Tuesday?
Yes, but not on Kaluma's, not on the issues of TSC, but actually on questions, the normal parliamentary questions from the majority leader. Because
I don't want it to be a debate. I've noticed a trend developing in the House that even where it is, the standing orders say comments, members have assumed that it is that comments is equals to debate. So what the Honorable Kaluma requests is reasonable. But I just want to caution that I may not be kind, if I will be on the chair, to allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry to rise in their places and start meandering. And whatever you raise must be specific to what is in the statements. Not just, it is not debate. It must be, let us just direct whatever comments, and nobody will speak for, other than the Honorable Kaluma, nobody will speak or make comments for a period of more than 2 minutes, because we must, we appreciate the times we are in. I know most committees are busy dealing with the supplementary budget estimates. So we can't afford to have too much time on the matter. But nevertheless, I grant the request. It's Thursday next week.
I wanted to request your indulgence to do so following the Tuesday following next week. Speaker, this is because I'll be out of the country on some parliamentary business, Mr. Speaker, from up to around 30th, from this Saturday.
That is Tuesday 3rd.
Yes, I'm seeking your indulgence, Mr. Speaker.
Tuesday 3rd of December.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
I thank you.
Leader of Majority.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2A, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, following its meeting held on Tuesday, 19th November 2019. On Tuesday next week, Mr. Speaker, the House will consider the Nuclear Regulatory Bill 2018 in the Committee of the Whole House. So I therefore wish to urge all members who may have amendments to this bill and have not submitted to the Office of the Clerk to do so before Monday, 12 noon. Honorable Speaker, the House is scheduled to consider the following bills at the second reading if they are not concluded today. 1, the Gambling Bill 2019, the Insurance Bill 2019, the T-Bill, Senate Bill number 36 of 2018, the Impeachment Procedure Bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2018, the County Government Revenue Raising Process Bill 2018, and the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill number 3, Bill of 2019. Next week, Mr. Speaker, the House is scheduled to consider the following reports. One, the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on the Land Registration, Electronic Land Transactions, Regulations 2019, and 2, the report of the Committee on Implementation on the resolutions of the House regarding the approval of Mrs. Mwende Mwinzi for appointment as ambassador. Further, Mr. Speaker, we expect the Budget and Appropriation Committee to table its report on 2019-2020 first supplementary estimate early next week in order to enable the House to conclude with it as soon as possible and pave way for the publication of the supplementary appropriation bill, which we hope to conclude before the House proceeds for the long recess. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 42A, Section 5 and 6, I wish to convey that the following Cabinet Secretaries have confirmed and are scheduled to appear before the departmental committees as follows. The Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Planning will appear before the Committee on Finance and Planning on Tuesday, 26 November, to answer the following questions from the following members: Honorable Elisha Ochieng Odhiambo, Honorable Kathuri Murungi, Honorable Makali Mulu, Honorable Marwa Maisori, and Honorable John Carrier. The Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection will appear before the committee on Thursday, 28th November 2019, to answer the following questions from the following members: Honorable Godfrey Makoka, Honorable Nasri Sahal, Honorable Wilson Sosion, Honorable Alpha Ondieki, Honorable Jane Kipto. And the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service and Gender will appear before the Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on Thursday, 28th November 2019, to answer questions number 406 by Honorable Gladys Wanga. And finally, the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development and Public Works will appear before the Committee of Transport, Public Works and Housing on Thursday, 28th November 2019, to answer the following questions from the following members: Honorable Catherine Waruguru, Honorable Benjamin Dalu Tayari, Honorable Ronald Kiprotich Tanui, Honorable Peter Kihara, Honorable Godfrey Omuse, Honorable Joshua Kandie, Honorable Catherine Obialanga, Honorable Rueda Obo, and finally Honorable Jackson Lekumontare. Mr. Speaker, we have told this Cabinet Secretary that in the event that they are held up, they need to write to the clerk and delegate the administrative secretary to appear on their behalf, but must do it in writing before Monday. So, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene on Tuesday, 26 November 2019 at the rise of the House to schedule business for the rest of the week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2017. Question to be put in that reading.
Order, members, order. I'm sure the member for Emuhaya can sit next to the Honorable Mele. I'm sure he's not harmful. Honourable members, debate on this motion was concluded. What remained was a question to be put, which I hereby do, that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2017. Will as many as that opinion say aye? As many as the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2017 be now read a third time. I request Honorable Amos Kimunya to second.
Honorable Kimunya. Very well. After a very long time, the Honorable Pukose is getting into the chamber after 3. Very well. I propose a question, which is that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2017, be now read a third time. I therefore put the question, having confirmed that the House still has quorum, that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2017, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Public Finance Management Act 2012.
Next.
Order number 9, motion. A report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018, question to be put and third reading.
Again, honourable members, you conclude a debate on this motion, and I put the question that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Move on.
To speak on behalf of the Chair of Legal Affairs Committee, Honorable Cheptumo, I beg to move that the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Pukose to second.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Member for Tiati, if you could walk a little faster. The way you appear to be swinging is like somebody who is in Tiati. So, honourable members, I propose a question, which is that the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018, be now read a third time. I don't see any interest. I put the question, having confirmed that there's still quorum, that the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018, be now read a third time. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to establish the office of the county attorney, provide for the function and powers of the county attorney, provide for the discharge of duties and the exercise of powers of the county attorney, and for connected purposes.
Well.
Order number 10, motion. A report of the Committee of the Whole House on the petition to County Assembly's Procedure Bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2018, question to be put and third reading.
Again, what remains a question to be put, which I hereby do, that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the petition to County Assembly's Procedure Bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2018. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Move on.
Mr. Speaker, again, on behalf of the Chair of Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs, Honorable Cheptumo, I beg to move that the petition to County Assembly's Procedure Bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2018, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Naomi Shaban to second.
Honorable Shaban. I propose the question, which is that the petition to County Assembly's Procedure Bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2018, be now read a third time. No man interest? Be in the chamber, be in the chamber. This is a member for Taita. Yeah, you know when you're in the chamber, look around so that you don't fall. Sometimes you could hit especially when you're on the gangways. Yes, I confirm that there's quorum. I therefore put the question, which is that the petition to County Assembly's procedure bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2018, be now read a third time. Will as many as other opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to give effect to Article 37 of the Constitution on the right to petition a county assembly, to provide for the procedure for the exercise of that right and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 11, motion. Report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Early Childhood Education Bill, Senate Bill number 26 of 2018, question to be put and third reading.
Again, I put the question, which is that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Early Childhood Education Bill, Senate Bill number 26 of 2018. Will as many as other opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover? Mover, is it? Meli. Honorable Meli.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that the Early Childhood Education Bill, Senate Bill number 26 of 2018, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Omboko Milembo to second.
Member for Emuhaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I second.
Why can't you consult while seated, please, so that we can transact this? Honourable members, I propose a question, which is that the Early Childhood Education Bill, Senate Bill number 26 of 2018, be now read a third time. Very well, if there's a desire of the House, I hereby confirm that there is still quorum, and I put the question, which is that the Early Childhood Education Bill, Senate Bill number 26 of 2018, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide a framework for the establishment of systems for the administration of early childhood education within a county and for connected purposes.
Very well, I think before we go to the next one, I need to register my appreciation to the House for that passage of so many bills. Those are four bills which are headed to become laws of the country. And more so those ones who participated in the committee of the whole House stage. Next order.
Order number 12, the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2019, second reading, question to be put.
Our members, member for this one. I'm sure you can sit next to the Honorable Rosa Buyu. She is very harmless. I know the Honorable Rosa Buyu to be a very civilized person and an honorable member, a gracious lady. Yeah? So don't fear sitting next to her, especially when you are in the chamber, not elsewhere. Honourable members, I put the question, which is the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2019, be now read a second time. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Competition Act.
Next order.
Order number 13, motion. report on the Committee of Powers and Privileges on the inquiry into alleged leakage and misuse of official information.
Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I move the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges on the inquiry into the alleged leakage and misuse of official information, contrary to the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 17(3)(b) of the Powers and Privileges Act 2017, resolves to reprimand the Honorable Fatuma Gedi for conducting herself in a manner that, 1, reflects adversely on the dignity and integrity of the National Assembly and its members, and 2, is contrary to the best interest of the National Assembly and its members, into contravention of Section 16(e) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017. Honorable Speaker,
I think the Honorable Rosa Buyu and the Honorable Masara, you must have the decorum to listen. Then you get a chance to say what you wish to say. But also, even as you do so, I want to invite every member, because I suspect not many of you have read the Powers and Privileges Act 2017, to fully appreciate your powers in a report of this nature, so that, whatever you do from a point of information. Please, apprise yourselves accordingly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that protection. Honorable Speaker, the basis of the inquiry that is in front of us was the leakage of a media letter by the DCI addressed the clerk of the National Assembly. That is only the matter that we are dealing with. Was this letter leaked or not? And who leaked the letter? Was it supposed to be leaked or not? And our inquiry ended there and does not touch on any other issues pertaining to that matter. Honorable Speaker, the letter in question was given to Honorable Fatuma Gedi by a parliamentary staffer, a fact that this committee was tasked to inquire into and establish whether, contrary to Section 22 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, the honorable member directly or indirectly used information obtained through or in connection with her office as a member of Parliament, and which was not available in the public domain for the furtherance of a private interest. Honorable Speaker, it's also good to appraise members that Section 22 of the Leadership and Integrity Act provides that, and I quote, "A state officer shall not directly or indirectly use or allow any person under the officer's authority to use any information obtained through or in connection with the office which is not available in public domain for the furtherance of any private interest, whether financial or otherwise," end quote. That is what it provides for. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, to this end, the committee held 9 meetings in which the committee had an opportunity to receive submissions from parliamentary staff. The Honorable Fatuma Gedi herself was invited to give evidence, and the Director of Criminal Investigations himself and other officers under him. Honorable Speaker, the question for determination, therefore, by this committee during the inquiry was simply to determine whether Honorable Fatuma did actually misuse official information contrary to the said section. Honorable Speaker, in doing so, we keenly looked at the evidence submitted by all the witnesses who appeared before the committee, including Honorable Fatuma Gedi, and all that information is available in our committee. And we arrived at the following determination, that the member directly use the information obtained through or in connection with her office, as she rightly said that she got the letter from the staffer and she owned up that fact as a member of parliament, and which was not available in public domain. And also that the conduct of the member of leaking the official letter dated 21st February 2019 by DCI to the office of the clerk reflected adversely on the dignity and integrity of National Assembly and its members, and was also contrary to the best interests of the National Assembly and the members. Honorable Speaker, so consequently, pursuant to Section 22 of the Powers, Leadership and Integrity Act, as read together with Section 16E of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege, the conduct of the member constituted a breach. And Section 16, Honorable Speaker, provides for the conduct constituting breach, and specifically, it states that 16E, that the National Assembly Committee on Powers and Privilege may find a member in breach of privilege if the member conducts himself or herself in a manner which in the opinion of the committee is intended or is likely to reflect adversely on the dignity or integrity of Parliament or of its members, or to be contrary to the best interests of Parliament and its members. That is what Section 16E provides for, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, based on the observations and findings of the committee, the report hence recommends that the House, pursuant to Section 17(3)(b) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, reprimands the Honorable Fatuma Gedi for conducting herself in a manner that reflected adversely on the dignity of the House and its members, and contrary to the best interest of this House and also its members. Honorable Speaker, it's also noteworthy, and I think this is very important. It is also noteworthy that the parliamentary staff in question and the staff who then gave that letter to the honorable member was also disciplined and reprimanded by the Parliamentary Service Commission, as the committee's jurisdiction was only limited to the complaints against members of this House and not the staff. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, without much ado, allow me to thank the members of the committee for participating in the inquiry and ensuring that the case was brought to a conclusion, and hence the report before the House. And with those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and ask Honorable Vincent Tuwei to second.
Honorable Tuwei.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to say that the inquiry in question is limited to the leakage and misuse of official information that is contrary to the Leadership and Integrity Act 22 and Powers and Privilege 16E. Mr. Speaker, sir, the matter in question is leakage of information. Whatever we are reading outside there in circulation or media is not the basis of our inquiry. The committee held 15 meetings or sittings in trying to come up with finding out exactly what really happened, and the committee got inside information. For anyone who has read the report, the staffer confirmed and accepted that he gave the letter himself to Mheshimiwa Fatuma Gedi, and of which we found out to be true, and the staff so far confessed and accepted that he is the one who gave out the letter to Mheshimiwa. I do support this report, Mr. Speaker, by saying that if we don't take action, all of us have confidential documents in this parliament that pertains to each and every one of us. If we allow these kind of leakages to go out there, some of us know how dangerous it is. We have rivals out there who might use the information, that is confidentially being kept here, Mr. Speaker, sir. We are actually the custodians of all the wealth, all the information pertaining to the wealth of every Kenyan in this country, including the president, under the Powers and Privilege Act. If this information is going to be leaked, not guarded well, Mr. Speaker, sir, we will be opening a very bad Pandora's box, because even our medical records, if anyone leaks any medical records adversely, leaked in the same manner that this has been done, Mr. Speaker, sir, this house will be vilified and it will lose its honor and integrity and credibility in the eyes of public, Mr. Speaker, sir. By the powers conferred to it by the Constitution, this house is the custodian of all the confidential documents pertaining to each and every public officer in this country, including the president. And if we don't guard this by protecting it through the provisions of the law and the Powers and Privilege Act, Mr. Speaker, sir, this will go badly, and it will be in record, and it will reflect badly on us and this house. I second, Mr. Speaker.
I propose the question that this House adopts a report of the Committee on Powers and Privileges on the inquiry into the alleged leakage and misuse of official information contrary to the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 17, subsection 3, paragraph B of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act 2017, resolves to reprimand the Honorable Fatuma Gedi for conducting herself in a manner that, 1, reflected adversely on the dignity and integrity of the National Assembly and its members, and 2, is contrary to the interests of the National Assembly and its members in contravention of Section 16E of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act 2017. You see, honor members, I did guide that it is fair that all of us familiarize ourselves with the provisions of particularly Section 22 of the Leadership and Integrity Act enacted in 2012, and further the provisions of Section 16, paragraph E of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act 2017. Having familiarized yourself with those two provisions, proceed to understand what the House may do under Section 17 of that Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act. So, and I say that there is the Honorable, let's say who? Apollo who? Abele. Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this report. Mr. Speaker, this report is on the inquiry of alleged leakage and of information contrary to the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012. Mr. Speaker, I actually sit in that committee, and I have actually been going through all the sessions to discuss this report. However, Mr. Speaker, it is good to understand this report from all perspectives. Mr. Speaker, we are told that when you see a dog barking, don't give much attention to the dog. Look for the master. Mr. Speaker, it is true that we are trying to safeguard the integrity of this House and the members. However, we also need to look at the integrity of the member of parliament who is being accused here. That, Mr. Speaker, having gone through the report and having sat in that committee, I'm here to tell this House that Honorable Fatuma Gedi's integrity has also been violated. In the sense that, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if you are abreast of what is happening out there. I don't know if you are in social media. Mr. Speaker, there was a clip, a pornographic clip, which went...
Sorry. I will not allow that particular aspect of this report to be the subject of debate.
But, Mr. Speaker, you see
Honorable Albele, this committee has already directed the Director of Criminal Investigations to move to expeditiously complete the investigations relating to that matter, because that is not a matter this House is seized of. And that's why the two of them must be separated. It doesn't matter what you feel, but you cannot. If you debate that, you are compromising the investigations into that matter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for
and
your
this
guidance.
committee has already directed the DCI to ensure that that matter is concluded. They must go to the utmost depth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. You are still continuing, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So proceed, because we want and that's why it is so specific. We have to deal with what is in section 22.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Very well, honorable members, it is important that we must separate. If it is not possible in your mind, please, you don't belong here. If you cannot be able to distinguish issues which are so clear, then it means you are in the wrong place. Because, it must be a point of order, not a point of argument.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on point of order number 95, that the mover of this motion be called upon to reply so that we can vote on this particular motion, Mr. Speaker. Further debate, Mr. Speaker, on this motion, given your directions, Mr. Speaker, which we understand, further debate is made quite complicated because this issue is an issue of chicken and egg. For you to debate this matter, we have to make reference to the matter that you have embargoed, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, rather than continue the debate in a manner that breaches your own direction, Mr. Speaker, I plead that the mover be called upon to reply so that we vote on this matter and wait for the substantive matter when and if it comes before the floor of this House so that we can debate it adequately. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move.
Which matter comes before the House? You are saying before another matter comes, which one?
I said, if it ever does, if it ever comes, the matter that has been embargoed, I know it is not before this House, it is before the DCI. But what we are saying is, it is impossible, Mr. Speaker, to debate this report without touching on the matters that the honorable member is touching on, Mr. Speaker. So I move that the mover be called upon to reply.
Is it still on the Honorable Albele? You are through with what you wanted to, with your contribution?
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity again. But, Mr. Speaker, as I had actually earlier indicated, that there is no way, for heaven's sake, we can deliberate particularly we zero only on the leakage of the confidential material without, because they are interconnected, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, the member has actually been humiliated.
The member has
and,
what?
Mr. Speaker, I therefore would like your guidance on how best we need to approach this matter, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
You see, it's surprising that the Honorable Albero is a member of the committee, and he suddenly has a problem understanding this. Member for Kimilili.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to restrict myself on the matter that was before the committee. And I want to bring it to the attention.
Honorable Wanga, you have no capacity to compel me to do what you desire. I have ignored it. Because the report, there are members, there are very many members. Yes. Honorable Wanga, you are not directing me. You know, the Honorable Masara, please appreciate this. If you want to contribute, you press an intervention. When you speak, while sitting there, you are making noise. You are actually causing disorder, for which Standing Order 107 will be applying very soon. Yes. Honorable Barasa.
Honorable Speaker, you know, the Powers and Privileges Committee has the responsibility to determine any matter that is brought before the committee, Honorable Speaker. And whatever this committee was investigating was leakage and misuse of public information, Honorable Speaker. And what I want to tell this House is that we need to ask ourselves 3 questions. One is to whether we had if the letter from DCI to the Clerk of National Assembly was leaked into the media, Honorable Speaker, and the answer is yes. We also need to ask ourselves a second question. Did the Honorable Fatuma Gedi confirm when she appeared before this committee that indeed she is the one who took that letter from an officer of Parliament? The answer is yes, Honorable Speaker. So what we are doing, Honorable Speaker, is that we must protect the integrity of this House. And to me, Honorable Speaker, protect me. Well, you should protect me from this Gladys Wanga. Why are you making noise? This is Parliament. This is not your house. Honorable Speaker, you should protect me.
Yes, you are protected.
Honorable Speaker, I will punch this lady who is making noise to me. Don't make noise here. Eh?
Honorable Passaris.
What are you
Honorable
doing?
Passaris.
I can punch you.
Honorable Passaris.
What are you doing here? What are you
Honorable Passaris. Honorable Passaris. Honorable
Why are you abusing me?
Passaris.
For what purpose? For what purpose? For what purpose are you planning? What the purpose? You are becoming unruly.
You can't threaten
Stupid.
Why is she? Another woman to beat another woman.
Honorable Passaris. Honorable Passaris. Honorable Passaris. Honorable Passaris. If you are, I will not allow dishonor. Get away from me. Get away from me. I've not called you. I'm calling you to stop grimacing at members. Can you go back there? Order. I'm on the floor. I must. Yeah. 107, yes. Yes. The penalty? Huh? Order. Order, members. Order, take your seats. I can see we are soon going to get to good business. Honor members, standing order number 107, subsection 1, reads as follows. A member commits an act of disorderly conduct if the member, A, creates actual dishonor, knowingly raises a false point of order, unnecessarily interrupts proceedings or consults in a disruptive manner, fails to record abstention in a division, fails to declare personal interest in a matter before the House or a committee in accordance with Standing Order number 90, deliberately gives false information to the House, makes allegations without, in the Speaker's opinion, adequate substantiation, threatens to use violence against a member or other person in the House or committee, votes more than once in breach of these standing orders, commits any other breach of these standing orders that, in the opinion of the Speaker, constitutes disorderly conduct. 2, the Speaker may call a member whose conduct is disorderly to order, and A, caution the member, or B, order the member to withdraw from the precincts of the Assembly for a maximum of 4 days. That is in the first instance. Honourable members, as you know, it's only fair that the House conducts itself in a manner that is dignified. When I call out a member to caution them that the behavior they are about to engage in is disorderly, I'm merely warning that any persistence in that conduct may result in the action being taken against that member, which will include, in the first instance, the suspension from the precincts of Parliament for 4 days. So, honorable members, I think we are almost at the tail end of this session. I hope none of us, none of you, wants us to end the session in a situation where a member is either going to be suspended or to be forcibly ejected out of the House, whose consequences are graver than this. And when I see the Sergeant-at-Arms staff come to cool you, to calm you, remember, if they touch you, and I want you to just read these standing orders. If they touch you a bit, if I tell them to touch you, you will be out of this chamber, the precincts, not just the chamber, the precincts of Parliament, including your offices in Continental House for a very long time. Please, let us not get to that. Or would like is provided to them in the most convenient way. And to ensure, inter alia, that the mace is at all times guarded. So, if you are not happy about a member's contribution, please don't shout at them. Don't shout at them. If you like, I will give you an opportunity to say something. The Honorable Wanga claimed that when she rises and calls for the mover to be called upon to reply, the speaker must. Please just read Standing Order 95 fully. So you can't keep shouting at your place for whatever reason. You may be very, very angry even with the decision of the speaker. But you know, if you feel that angry, just take a walk, go and have a cup of tea. Yeah? You will relax. I'm sure you will cool down. There's a lot of water even. So just, you cannot behave as if we are conducting public rallies in the House. In as much as I know you do out there. But when you're here, let's have some dignity. So if you don't like, please wait for your chance. Your turn will come, and you will contribute. Remember, there's nothing, even this report will be decided upon by yourselves. So what is the hurry? What is the, why do you want the Honorable Rosa Buyu? I'm happy now you're taking water, yes. And you have cooled down. Yeah? Yeah, it's good, yes. This is good. So Honorable Rosa Buyu, Honorable Masara, Honorable Esa Pasaris, Honorable Wanga, I do not want to have to call you to order again. Please. Your chance is going to come. You will say what you want to say, provided you say it within the limits of the standing orders. So let's just relax. I don't know what it is you may have taken over lunch, but it may be harassing you, but just relax. If you can't, go and seek medical attention. So I don't want to have to read to members Standing Order 107 again, or indeed 107A. I'm doing this because I realize that, I've read it because I realize that all of us just make references to the standing orders without regard to what indeed they say. I do not have to read it again and allow the business to be transacted. In a short while, you make a decision. So let's proceed. Honorable Baraza, you are on your feet.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want again to reiterate my position that I support this report. This is a fair report. It was done in a very professional manner, Honorable Speaker. the findings of this report reflect the true picture of what happened, Honorable Speaker. And this is one of the committees that is chaired by the chairman, who's been a person of high standing in legal fraternity, somebody who understands the law, and that this House, we should not behave in a manner that seems to appease our various political formations, Honorable Speaker, but we must debate soberly within the principles of the law, and we should be guided by the facts that were presented before the committee, Honorable Speaker, because, Honorable Speaker, it's very important that the files that are being held in the office of the Clerk of National Assembly must not be made in a way that anybody can just access them to further their own personal interest, Honorable Speaker. This is a report that I've gone through the findings and the recommendations. They are very fair, Honorable Speaker. While the Act gives the powers of this committee, Honorable Speaker, to order a member to vacate his or her seat, but this committee has just recommended that the honorable member to be reprimanded. This is a very fair recommendation, Honorable Speaker. And I want to ask my friends, the members of this House, that let us debate issues with our brains, not with our energy. It is not that every time when you have a disagreement, Honorable Speaker, that we want to sort out your differences by blows, by abuses, Honorable Speaker, but we should restrict ourselves to the facts that are contained in this report, Honorable Speaker. For these very few remarks, I say I support this report. It represents the facts the way they are, Honorable Speaker. And the person whom we were also investigating, Honorable Speaker, appeared before this committee, and indeed she confirmed that she went to Nur, and very many times she coerced that parliamentary staff. She was given the documents. She leaked the documents to the media. This is a fact, Honorable Speaker. And I want to urge my friends in this House to support this report. Today we are looking at this report, Honorable Speaker, but tomorrow we will have another member who will also using unscrupulous means to get documents or reports that will affect each one of us, Honorable Speaker, to get them into the media, Honorable Speaker. What we are doing as a House is not just, we are not just punishing Honorable Fatuma Gedi, but we are sending a warning that nobody has the powers to coerce a parliamentary staff to get access to documents that is not entitled to, Honorable Speaker, and this will also prevent further occurrence of this particular act, Honorable Speaker. So for this very few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Member for Funyula.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. I've had an opportunity to go through the report. Yes, a lot is contained in that report. And knowing the limitations of Parliament, and knowing the limitations that going through the report, since quite a number of allegations have not been verified. While it is abhorrent to leak official documents, but indeed, Honorable Speaker, it is also not fair where we stand to stand in public and debate the conduct of our colleague in public view in front of national media and everything else, knowing that now we have placed a gag on the matter leading to this particular matter. Honorable Speaker.
What's your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I think, as you said, we have our standing orders and we read, but we don't seem to really interpret and understand what the standing orders provide for. Because what we are debating, Honorable Speaker, is a report by a committee of this House. And the House has every right to debate and consider reports tabled before this House. Therefore, I don't think the Honorable Member for Funyula is in order to be misleading Kenyans who are watching us, Honorable Speaker, that we are here debating the conduct of a member. We are debating the content of a report that is rightly before this House, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, you should not mislead the House, Honorable Speaker, that we have no business to debate the conduct. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, let me not get into debate. I hope I'll get an opportunity to do that, Honorable Speaker. But the House has the right to debate even the conduct of a member should a substantive motion be brought, and what is before the House is a motion. I know the member for Funyula is having his first term, but it's good to appraise himself of what happens in the House.
You know, I can see now the Honorable Passaris, maybe you want to disagree, but you know it is not done that way. Let me also make it absolutely clear to all of you that the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya obligates all of us, among other things, and except in exceptional circumstances, Parliament is obligated to conduct its affairs in the open, in a transparent manner. And this House is at liberty to discuss or debate the conduct of anybody, including the conduct of the President, including the conduct of the Speaker. Yeah? It will not be discussed in camera. Maybe the honorable member for Funyula may have forgotten. He may have forgotten that this House has an occasion to discuss motions of this nature here in the open. In fact, and as resolved, it was just during this Parliament that the two members, the member for Embakasi East and the member for Stare, the report about the complaint launched against them was brought to this House. It was debated. Was it not about their conduct? Was it not about their conduct? This House reprimanded them. They even went and apologized. Yeah? So we are being selective. How is it? What is this new thinking that has engulfed the House? That when it comes to discussing, remember, Honorable Odo, you, as a member of this House, can bring a motion to impeach the President. Would you be suggesting by your argument that that motion should be discussed in somewhere in one of in the dark rooms? It will be discussed and debated here. Isn't it? Remember, if you gag yourself, and I want to just caution the House, you gag yourself today, then you must gag yourself forever. Because those impeachment motions will be about conduct. So to argue, you might as well then repeal the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, and also repeal the Leadership and Integrity Act. Indeed, go ahead and repeal Article 75, 76, and 77 of the Constitution. So I think you can oppose, but please don't use because now this is a law. When you misapply it, the Constitution commands us to do all our business in the open. Now, if you suggest, Honorable Undo, that we should retreat into camera because this matter is weighty, according to you, or I don't know, whatever, then you could suggest and move a motion to that effect. The House can, in exceptional circumstances, resolve to hear a matter in camera. So, Honorable Undo, just proceed, but please be informed.
Okay, Honorable Speaker, well guided. I made a reference, first of all, on 2 points or two issues, Honorable Speaker. One, we are honorable members and we are colleagues. We are colleagues. And being colleagues, we have a moral duty to protect the good name of our fellow colleagues. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, yes, it's true, we'll debate the report that is before the House. But behind the mind of all Kenyans who are listening to us, there is a genesis to that matter. And the matter here, Honorable Speaker, is dealing with a lady. It's dealing with a honorable lady. Honorable Speaker, we are dealing with a mother. Honorable Speaker, we are dealing with a respectable lady in society. That's why I want to urge my colleagues. Today, it is Fatuma Gedi. Tomorrow, it will be you and I. As much as there could be credible evidence to suggest that a mistake was committed, an illegality was committed, as Africans, as members of this community called Kenya, there is a better way of dealing with our internal issues. As much as we debate, as much as we want to unmask ourselves, as much as we want to take the time to settle political scores, it is not in order. It's un-African for us to stand and debate the conduct of whatever it is in this kind of a manner. Honorable Speaker, for that reason, I stand to oppose the report and request my fellow colleagues that whatever has been done is enough punishment for any mistake the honorable member had committed. I seek that all members, we do oppose this report and put this matter to rest. Leave it where it is. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I want us to know, what is it that we are debating? What is the issue? Leakage of official communication. I think I would ask you to look at all the observations, testimonies that have been given. Is there the issue is whether there is leakage or no leakage. Was there any leakage? Yes. Was there leakage? Yes. There was no leakage. According to some there was no leakage according to some. You see, this is a problem, and we have said it severally in this house. We have said it severally in this house. The Honorable Passaris, you appear to be burning with something. Say it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the era of increased gender-based violence, when a member actually threatens to punch another member, and especially a woman in the house, and some of the things that you didn't hear were the insults that he was levying. Even I can't repeat the insults, but I won't go there. Let me tell you about the report, Mr. Speaker. I've read the report. It is true that Honorable Gedi appeared before the committee. It is true that she stated very clearly, she did not lie, she held herself with integrity, and she said, yes, I did acquire that, the said documentation, but she did not say that she leaked the document. She actually said she never leaked that document. So when Honorable Dismas here stands up and misleads the entire country and puts it on the Hansard that Honorable Gedi admitted to the committee that she leaked the document, that is misleading the House. We know that this has got nothing to do with the document. This is just a war, the wars that we have outside Parliament being brought into the House. Honorable Gedi, I know you don't want us to discuss the investigation material, but all this is related. This is a score trying to be settled between the two fractions that exist in the country. We want handshake, we want BBI, we do not want to be divided in the House. We do not want to be divided in the House. Conduct themselves with decorum. Mr. Speaker, if it's going to be debated, let it be debated with accuracy. Honorable Gedi, with her integrity, did not go into the House and deny that she asked for that document and she got it. She was obviously going through a lot of stressful and emotional period. She was being defamed by people who used a video from online and defamed her in front of her family, in front of society, in front of her electorate. So when she asked for that document, she did not deny. when she was asked, did you leak the document? She clearly stated to that committee, no, I did not. So the fact is, Honorable Dismas is standing here, besides wanting to beat me, and I challenge you with your, I mean, I'm sure
Honorable Passaris.
No, I mean,
I've just read to you standing under 107. And you know, maybe you have not, it has not been applied to you. It's just about to. Don't be personal. No, proceed, continue with what you are. But don't, that thing of turning around and don't be personal.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a woman. Women are emotional beings, and that's why we have empathy.
You are in the wrong place. You don't bring emotions here.
Mr. Speaker, because I am so emotional, can I donate my remaining meetings to Honorable Malala? Can I?
Proceed. But
Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose. And if you allow me, I'd like to donate to anyone in this front row.
You have no authority. There's nothing to donate. You see, now, that is the kind of thing that I told you. Read your standing orders. You start telling us you are donating. Donating what? Certainly what you want to donate is not here. Donate elsewhere. Certainly not in the chamber. Stop the donations. Stop the donations. With this. Sorry. Member for Kinangop.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and I must thank you for taking charge of the House today. In fact, if it were some of us would be allocating their address, PO box, wherever they live, because of the disorder. But nevertheless, I want to support this report based on the fact that the Privileges and Powers and Privileges Committee sat, and they did what they are supposed to do as a committee. They gave us findings, and they listened to all the witnesses. And indeed, there was an admission by one Honorable Fatuma Gedi that she indeed got that letter from our parliamentary staff. That is enough reason to guarantee and to really invoke Section 17 of Powers and Privileges Act. And indeed, this committee is even mild, because I can see from the Act, there were other remedies, there were other penalties that should have been conferred upon her, but they only chose to reprimand her. They would have chosen to expel her from the House. They would have chosen all the other options, but they chose one, to reprimand her, so that then we can maintain the dignity of this House. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, I wish to support this report and say congratulations to the committee for coming up with such a balanced report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Professor Oduor, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on this important report. Mr. Speaker, on the outset, I would like us as members, indeed, as we look at the very significant duty, and indeed the report, Mr. Speaker, which I have also had a chance to look at, to indicate that it is our duty as members in regard to the context of what is put before us, specifically the need to look into the leakage that we see from the report would be assigned to Honorable Gedi. Mr. Speaker, when I look at page 52 of the report, it indicates that from the committee's consideration of witnesses and indeed their effort to come to a conclusion, Mr. Speaker, they say, and I read, that in view of the foregoing, the leakage may therefore have happened immediately after the exchange of the letter between Mr. Noor and Honorable Gedi. Mr. Speaker, I read this because it is a context where indeed, when we're looking first and foremost, the premise of what it is that we would be using to confirm the misconduct is one that is not conclusively, Mr. Speaker, in the committee's own submission presented. Because, Mr. Speaker, it is extremely important that we remember that there are contexts where we can infer from facts. Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge the House to consider the distinction that exists between fact and truth. Mr. Speaker, facts are what it is that you can evidence. And when I look, Mr. Speaker, at the report, I can see that there are facts. There are facts of those who walked into the room. Mr. Speaker, there are facts of those who were asked questions. Mr. Speaker, the truth, in a way, is extremely important, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank you because indeed, as you guided us in terms of dealing with this matter, you helped us to ensure that we do not in any way begin to look at facts that might not necessarily be relevant. But, Mr. Speaker, it is on the very same premise that as I speak on this, Mr. Speaker, because I feel that it is extremely important for us as a House to conduct ourselves, particularly on a matter where we would want to ensure that we are acting in a way that is becoming of the House, that we see that truth can indeed be in accordance with facts, but truth really needs to have authenticity. That, Mr. Speaker, the truth is something which depends on a person's perspective and depends on a person's experience. And, Mr. Speaker, I keep going back to the committee because I have absolutely no basis or reference. And, Mr. Speaker, by the own committee's submission, where they are making inferences, because there isn't any evidence that says that this indeed is what the Honorable Gedi actually admitted to doing, or this is what happened, I would like, Mr. Speaker, that we do then, in this context, consider that it is extremely important that as we then choose to make a determination, that we would want to remember that there would be cases or instances where we ourselves, when we are called upon, indeed to then confirm what it is that informed, we will be hard placed, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I make this submission, I want, Mr. Speaker, for you to allow me the indulgence, because, Mr. Speaker, there is a sense in which when we also talk about a context, we must, in a way, see that meaning does not exist in isolation. And, Mr. Speaker, we are looking at this in a context where I know that I didn't get a chance, Mr. Speaker, to raise a point of order, but the Honorable Didmas, who, Mr. Speaker, as the time that he was making his own submission, Mr. Speaker, seemed in his own approach to be reflecting what might also be seen to be some fact in our country, in Kenya, that when you are of the female gender and when you are a leader, there is a way that it is a fact that your gender could be seen, not to be seen, to be given the same level of respect or the same level of recognition. But the truth, Mr. Speaker, is that whether you are male or female, Mr. Speaker, if you are somebody who is in leadership, then you are called upon and others are called upon to ensure that their perspective and the manner that they look at the issue is one that would be seen to be above board and would be seen not in any way to be interfered with or influenced. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, my request to the House would be that we have before us a report, and I would plead with the House that we seek to look at the matter that we were talking about, which was the question of leakage. And, Mr. Speaker, when we look at the report itself, we do not see the committee indeed confirming and letting us know that this actually happened. We see, Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, a manner in which the Speaker is making inference. And it is, Mr. Speaker, for this reason that as I look at this report, and indeed with the serious consideration, but most importantly, Mr. Speaker, that we cannot avoid the fact that the Honorable Gedi is of the female gender. We cannot ignore the fact that there is a sense in which this is sometimes used in ways that does not favorably allow, and, Mr. Speaker, in itself can be seen to be an abuse of sorts that can be extended. So, Mr. Speaker, with this, I'd like to urge the House that as much as we see that there indeed were witnesses and there was indeed a case of behavior that was not acceptable, that I do not feel, Mr. Speaker, that the report of the committee and the submission that they make is conclusive enough and warrants that we then meet out the case of the abuse that is presented. So with this, Mr. Speaker, I do not support the report, and I urge the House to remember that we must separate fact from truth, and we must, Mr. Speaker, rise above experiences, perspectives, because this can usually be influenced by circumstances other than what we have before us. Mr. Speaker, with this, I'd like to say I do not support and urge members of the House that we rise above any issues of personalizing and remain honorable in our House. And Mr. Speaker, just before I resume my seat, Mr. Speaker, I have an occasion, Mr. Speaker, to look at the standing orders, Mr. Speaker, the very standing orders 107, Mr. Speaker, that you referred to earlier. And Mr. Speaker, I know you're aware that I got a chance to go to Beijing, and Mr. Speaker, next year we are going to be celebrating 25 years of having all, not only after hosting Nairobi in 1985, but convening in Beijing to name and reject any levels of abuse or violation. Mr. Speaker, in a context where we are in ourselves as a House looking at what we would see to be acts of gross misconduct, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to draw your attention because, Mr. Speaker, I got the impression that you might not have caught it, that the Honorable Didmas Barasa be called upon, Mr. Speaker, to retract and withdraw the comments that he made, which were unparliamentary, because, Mr. Speaker, in the House we do not have a lady, and Mr. Speaker, there is no way, when I look at the standing orders, that any other member is expected to act in a way that looks like they are showing violence to another one. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg your indulgence and draw your attention that we do, as an honorary House, require and expect through you, Mr. Speaker, that the Honorable Didmas Barasa, his utterances, Mr. Speaker, as I look to Standing Order 107, he made utterances that were unparliamentary because, Mr. Speaker, he referred to a lady, and Mr. Speaker, from what I heard, and maybe the Hansard could be a good basis of helping to confirm, he actually threatened, indeed, to handle the lady. And Mr. Speaker, I would beg that through you, your indulgence, he could retract this, because this in itself, Mr. Speaker, is really unacceptable. 25 years after Beijing, in an honorary House that is in itself discussing issues of misconduct. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Did you say he said he will handle? What? Punch.
He was actually going to punch the lady. And Mr. Speaker, there is no lady, and if there was, in our House, Mr. Speaker, we cannot be violent or threaten to be. Thank you.
You know, now did you, Honorable Barasa, the Honorable Professor says that you threatened to punch.
No, Honorable, it's Honorable Gladys and Honorable Rosa Buyu wanted to, who are attempting to punch me. I didn't punch her. I can't punch Esther Passaris here. No. I didn't say I want to punch Esther Passaris. I can't punch Esther Passaris, Honorable Speaker. If I didn't beat Honorable Simba right, how can I punch Esther Passaris? It's not possible. It's not possible.
Let me just... What Sorry, that's Honorable Bukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to support the committee report. Honorable Speaker, when you go to page 52 of this document, on E, it says Mr. Noor in his testimony stated that he gave a copy of the letter to Honorable Fatuma Kedi late in the evening on Friday at around 4 p.m., but soon thereafter, he learned that a copy of the letter he had given to her, to Honorable Fatuma Kedi, was being circulated in the social media. To me, Honorable Speaker, and it also goes down to say even the memo was being circulated in the social media. Honorable Speaker, to me, it's a question of how the documents were handled. Sensitive documents that concerns all of us. To me, I'm looking at the moral issue on how the documents that concern honorable members are being carded within the various precincts of Parliament. Honorable Speaker, if this Privileges Committee is not supported in its report, then what it means is that we will be exposing every member that anything that you've done, anything that you filed, anything, even your medical report, it can be shared and put into the social media. To me, Honorable Speaker, if it was immediately after the document was given, when you look at the submission of Honorable Fatuma Kedi, it says that she got the document from Noor. After getting the document from Noor, she went to the lounge, and in the lounge, she just left the document there. To me, it's a lame excuse. It's not the truth. It's a careless handling of sensitive information, which was concerning her. So the committee sitting down and saying we are reprimanding the member, to me, it's a very fair position. It protects the integrity of the member, and I think it is very wrong that we start diverting issues concerning the member to start discussing her. I think we should just discuss on the document, handling of that document, and we leave it at that level. So with those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Member for Uriri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to record my voice on this issue. I have gone through the report. I have seen the member in question, Honorable Fatuma Kedi, admits to have received the document. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge the committee because we might be missing something. That a parliamentary staff would issue to a member a sensitive document on the street or in the corridors like that. And what I'm asking is, if the parliamentary staff did give this member this copy of the letter, why are we thinking that this letter was not given to someone else? And for that reason, to try and say that it is a member because she was given, because Honorable Fatuma Kedi is a honorable member of this House, but not a staff of Parliament. That if she went with a document and probably someone else picked it from there, it is not her responsibility. So I think really that this House or the committee to crucify the member just because she was handed a document and the document found itself on social media. I also want to ask, does the Committee on Privileges, on Parliamentary Privileges, have the capacity to determine that it is Fatuma Kedi who shared this document on social media? Because I don't think we went into that length. We should then even further the investigation to find out which was the original phone, the IP address where this document originated from, then it was circulated. To say that today, if I picked a document on a table here and the next minute is on the social media, it is me who has shared it, would be really wrong. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to completely oppose this on the stand that it is not the member, and Mr. Speaker, even if it were me, in the circumstances that I don't want to discuss, in as much as you've gagged us, but the report in itself alludes to some of the issues that you don't want us to speak about here. Any member in such a position would be seeking every available opportunity to get any information. Even if I was told that that information is at Central Bank, I would want to seek, because the issue and the allegations that led to this, even these memos flying back and forth, were very serious. Touching on family, I don't want to get into the issue. But even if it were me or you, Mr. Speaker, and you are told that that information is in heaven, you would want to go to church so that you get to heaven to get that information. Just to appraise yourself what the issues then are. And to say that she is the one who leaked it to the media, social media or otherwise, I don't think the committee has the capacity to determine that it was her. So I actually rise and I urge my colleagues that let us reject this report and oppose it completely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I think you may have seen me recently in the media at a workshop with the members of the Powers and Privileges Committee, at which I made the proposition. And I want to challenge my very good friend, the Honorable Peter Kaluma, to take this on up. When we passed the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act as in 2017, you provided that the chairman or chairperson, as the case may be, of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Committee of each house shall be the speaker, the respective speakers. You have heard me recently say that I find that a bit of a challenge. Honorable Peter Kaluma, I know in this area you are very good. Please take up this challenge. Propose an amendment where, like in other jurisdictions, the speaker's roles will be to preside in the plenary here. If the speakers have to have any role, it should only be limited to, and I want to say this, providing information, to helping to select in consultation with the leadership members from either side who are equal number, who then will be able to elect their chair. I've made that proposal, that comment, because I think it is not fair. You see, now, because the Honorable Wanga put the stood in a place and claimed that the mover be called upon to reply, I could very well see. I have had many years in politics. I could very well see that there is something that is some spirit. Yes? But you see, I cannot get involved in the debate. I could not get involved in this in the debate. So I intend now, because as your speaker, I find myself in a very, very awkward situation, especially when I hear people say we don't think that the committee has capacity. Now, the committee received evidence. You see, even when a person is taken to court and they plead not guilty, that's not to say now that they plead not guilty, they are therefore innocent. Eh? And then when I know the sequence of events, Honorable Shamala, that on the 21st, on Thursday, 21st of February this year, a letter was delivered in the office of the clerk of the National Assembly purporting to summon 4 members of parliament to appear before the DCI. The clerk of the National Assembly sought opinion from the Directorate of Litigation, who advised him that the matters complained in this summons are of a criminal nature and you have no business helping the DCI to investigate. And that information is then given, the correspondence is handed over, and it's somehow intercepted along the way. And in less than 1 hour, it is in social media. Then, of course, as happens with many politicians, things start moving. The others start calling the DCI. Is it true that you are summoning us? Now, you know, you are putting me in a very awkward situation. I wish I was in the other life, because it will not be difficult. And the Honorable Nyamita will not have found it difficult to believe that we have capacity to assess evidence, assess veracity, and even determine who among the protagonists has told us the truth, or that which is nearly capable of belief. What are the circumstances that lead us to a particular conclusion? So you see, you put me in a very awkward position, and that's why I'm appealing to my good friend, the Honorable Peter Kaluma. Please, this act, don't put the speaker in this kind of situation. Because you are putting me in the debate now, because I appear like I have all the evidence, all the things that I appear to be bothering you if I were to participate in the debate. And I gave you the chronology, because I will then tell you what happened on the 22nd, which was a Friday. No, the letter is 21st. The next event is 22nd. On 23rd, remember, we are sitting next to Honorable Patuma Gedi, called some senior DCI officer, inquiring whether is it true that you are looking for me. Now, you see, now when I know all this, because I sat in the committee, isn't it wrong, Honorable Kaluma, for me to say, now I have all this information, but I'm therefore conflicted. You make me conflicted because of the provisions of the law you passed. Because I have all this information which you don't have. Even those who have claimed here to have read the report have not even gone to the various observations, which are in excess of 20. You know, when some of you claim I've read the report, you know, and then you proceed to make, you know, surely. So that's why I'm saying, and that's why I said recently, the members of this committee who are present, the Honorable Mwadi, the Honorable Tuwei, you know, they know that I said no. The Honorable Koyo, I said, you know, I think this law is not proper. It isn't. To have the Speaker to chair a committee that is quasi-judicial in nature, because this committee is given that kind of responsibility. It puts the Speaker in a very, very awkward situation. Honorable Undu. It's very it's very bad, because I shouldn't be the one in possession of this information. But now I have this information, but I cannot participate. So the best thing for me to do at this point, to avoid listening to, you know, you saying things which are not in the report, because you are saying things which are not in the report, because I can see you have not read the report, you know. But some haven't read, surely. But you know, and that's why I said, if you know the reason why this committee decided no, Director of Criminal Investigation, you remember even it was reported, this committee castigating the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and the director himself, that why have you taken so long to investigate this matter? Because you have caused a lot of unnecessary suffering. And indeed, I can understand the feelings of many of you that spoke with that spirit, which I referred to, because I can understand. And the members of the committee are fully seized of these things and agonized. But you see, the best thing is for me to put the question. Now that I have, you know, the Honorable Rosa Boyu, because you are new, I don't know, please, I want to encourage you to thoroughly understand the standing orders. Please, the only thing for me to do, so that we can see, so that the spirit can work. Yeah? So that the spirit can work, is to put the question which is the mover be called upon to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I don't envy your position, but it's good the way you have put it, that you are in a catch-22, where you have to preside over the committee as the chair, and as well as preside over the House. But suffice it to say, Honorable Speaker, that I want to thank all members who have contributed, notwithstanding the pressure that is there. But let me start by stating the following as I reply. One, honorable members, it's a fact that some document was leaked like we have observed. It's a fact that a staffer has already owned up that that document was leaked. It's a fact that one of us also accepted receiving that document. Up to there, those are all facts. How it was handled thereafter, including her saying she left it at the members' lunch, I don't know, but it leaked in the next 1 hour after that. But let us pose ourselves this question. Honorable members, is it okay that we shall allow, suppose we even didn't reprimand the staffer, is it okay that we shall allow staff to give our documents out anyhowly? We have documents that talk about your emoluments. We have documents that have your own medical records. You have documents that we are holding that says how much you are worth, declaration of your wealth. Is it okay that this document should leak out? I think those are the hard questions that we should ask ourselves, but at the same time, ask ourselves, do we want to conduct ourselves in the manner that we have seen the issue being handled? Would you want also to leak documents pertaining to the issues of your colleague? I think my answer is no. As to whether there are African ways of solving this issue, probably there is, but it is not legislated. But we are using what we have, which is the Powers and Privileges Act, which gives us the mandate. And therefore, using that Powers and Privilege Act is the one that gives us the strength and mandate to sort out the issues as they come. There are actually, members, worse penalties. There are worse penalties. We have 8 different penalties, but we settle to a lesser one just so that it becomes a deterrent to us and to the staff. That is what we are saying. And I want to say that even as the question is being put, persuade ourselves that we need to tell ourselves, each one of us, that we don't need to go that way. How then don't you go that way? Is to adopt the report. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, sir, I beg to reply. Asante.
Very well, very well. Take your seats, take your seats. How can a member be moving like that? Well, in keeping with the spirit, isn't it? Honour members, I put the question that this House adopts a report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges on the inquiry into the alleged leakage and misuse of official information contrary to the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019, and pursuant to provisions of Section 17, Subsection 3, Paragraph B of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act 2017, resolves to reprimand the Honorable Fatuma Gedi for conducting herself in a manner that reflected adversely on the dignity and integrity of the National Assembly and its members, and is contrary to the best interests of the National Assembly and its members, in contravention of Section 16, Paragraph E of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act 2017. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it.
Order number 14, the Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2019, second reading, resumption of debate.
You chased me away, now I can see you've cooled down. He honestly said, I'm going to punch this lady. That's what he said.
I think before we move to the next one, I think it's fair for me to say, for the time being, this committee should not entertain further complaints from members until maybe until you have amended the law. Yeah. So you can do what you want to do to each other. Meanwhile, in the meantime, because where will you take the complaints to? We don't have, unless you take the complaints to the police. Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because you see, it is not possible that even if you sat the committee seats, there will be some other spirit. So just that's what it is. The net effect is to. No. I don't retreat over matters of this nature to discuss. You can take this one. You can take this one. Have you read the order?
Yes, we have read the order.
Oh gosh. Sarah. Which one? So, honour members, debate that goes on is the one on the Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2019. Resumption of debate. The Honourable Cecily Mbarire unmoved, seconded by the Honourable Joseph Limo, and therefore is open to any member to contribute. I hope all these people who have their accounts here, like Mohammed Sheikh, I'm sure he doesn't want to contribute to this. He wants to contribute to the, he wanted to contribute to the other one. This is the Insurance Amendment Bill. The Honorable Udo, contributed to this?
I had not contributed, but I would take the opportunity to make a word or two.
Very well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute on Insurance Amendment Bill of 2019. Honorable Speaker, on the onset, as a country, we need to appreciate the importance of insurance in business and the general life activities of the people of Kenya and humanity as a whole. Honorable Speaker, the purpose of insurance is a risk transfer mechanism that ensures that a person, whenever is faced with a peril that results in a loss, there's somewhere he can transfer over that risk, so that's assumed by another party that has got the competence, the resources, and the ability to mitigate that particular loss. Honorable Speaker, the amendment that are being brought here is essentially to strengthen compliance, supervision, and governance of the insurance business in this country. Honorable Speaker, the bill proposes various amendments to impose fines, sanctions, and reprimand or process that will ensure that the various players in the insurance sector, be they the brokers, the insurance underwriters, and any other party involved in insurance business, is able to comply with the rules. Honorable Speaker, specifically, the issue at play here is the issue of transfer of funds paid as premium to the insurance brokers, by insurance brokers to the insurance underwriters. Honorable Speaker, this country has been replete with the cases where brokers collect premium and they do not remit the premium to the insurance underwriters. In the event the insured faces a loss or a claim, that's the moment you understand that truly there was no money, there was no proper insurance in place. Honorable Speaker, we do believe with these amendments, there will be adequate deterrent from that kind of behavior. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, quite a number of insurance companies have become notorious. That yes, at the point of taking the insurance cover, they come with very sweet stories. They send to you very suave sales girls, most of them are sales girls, and they convince you to take insurance cover, and you sign on the dotted line. Beneath those dotted lines, there are very invincible statements, exemptions that make it impossible for you to get a claim in the event of a loss. We do believe that kind of misrepresentation, this particular bill, once enacted, will truly deal with that matter in finality, that case of misrepresentation should not be allowed to be a defense in the event of a claim being turned down. Honorable Speaker, the issue of compensation, insurance companies will go down, will go under like any other business. We like the proposal to enhance the mandate and the representation of the Board of Trustees that generally manage that compensation fund. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the bill, and we urge our members to support and conclude this matter as soon as possible. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Emurwa Dikir. Oh, your count is, I'm just going by what is the count. Member for Laikipia North. This is Correre Paulana. Not there. Member for Shinyalu.
He left his card. He has retreated.
Member for Bumula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. From the onset, I wish to support this insurance amendment bill. It's a very important bill, Mr. Speaker, because in this country, many people are suffering in the hands of the middlemen. And just as my colleague has alluded, it's true in most cases, unless you are connected to some powers, it's not very easy for you to get your benefits when you have a loss. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I would suggest that indeed the first thing that needs to be done with all these insurance companies is that once you are insured, there should be a clear communication. But when you are remitting your money, it's not just going in the hands of the middlemen, but at the end of the day, or even if it's not monthly or quarterly, you have to get clear confirmation that indeed they are receiving your money. And there should be also clear timelines of, Madam Speaker, on how your benefits should be remitted to whenever you have a loss. Because at times people run up and down the whole year, and at times even the whole several years. I know of a person who is right now even following an insurance benefits of almost 3 years down the line. So there should be a very clear timeline of actually compensating the people who have been involved in any kind of loss. So it's very important, and Madam Speaker, I actually support this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. Members, having no another member interested to speak to the same, I call upon the mover to reply. The mover to reply.
The Speaker said this afternoon that you can only donate outside the chamber.
No, leader of majority, since you can still donate.
No, I don't want to. The Speaker was very categorical, Madam Speaker, that any donation can take place outside the chamber.
Very well.
And I'm very good in donating outside the chamber, but not inside. The Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Bakali will contribute maybe when you come to the Committee of the Whole House. He's one of the very serious members. But I think this is a small bill, and it's part of the bills that came with the budget. This one and the competition amendment bill. So it's good that we deal with these bills before we go on the long recess. And the principal object of this bill, Madam Speaker, is just to amend the Kenya... Sorry, Madam Speaker. It's just to make sure that there's a small amendment to the Insurance Act, mainly touching on one or two aspects. And that aspect one is to introduce a provision for the protection of policyholders where the insurer is in distress and the assets are put in a statutory management. In the event that the insurer gets serious financial implication, is in distress, then there must be a way to do to put in place mechanism for statutory management. It also empowers the insurance regulatory authority to prescribe the manner of submission of various kinds of returns, because all insurance companies are under obligation to do that return. So that is also provided for, which shall be payable into the policy compensation fund. So it's also creating that policy compensation fund. So, Madam Speaker, this bill will be one of the very few bills. It has got few amendments, and the report of the committee is available. And that is why I think there are not less than 5 members who contributed, not because there are issues, but because it's a small bill that the Minister for Finance felt it's necessary when he was presenting the budget highlights for 2019-2020 to the House on the 15th of June 2019. I beg to reply.
You beg to reply. Very well. All members, having the bill debated and replied, from where I see it, pursuant to the provisions of our standing orders, I am not in a position to put the question, and I do order that the question to the Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2019, be deferred. Next order.
Order number 15, the Gaming Bill, National Assembly Bill number 38 of 2019, second reading.
The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture and Tourism. Honorable Munyaka, member for Machakos.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I beg to move that the Gaming Bill 2019 now be read a second time. Madam Speaker, by way of introduction, this is a committee-sponsored bill by the Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture and Tourism, and the Gaming Bill 2019 was published on 27th May 2019, and read first time on 11th June 2019 in this House, and thereafter committed to the Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture and Tourism for consideration pursuant to Standing Order number 127. Madam Speaker, the Gaming Bill 2019 seeks to repeal the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act, Cap 131 of 1966, by providing for the control and licensing of betting, casinos, and other forms of gambling, authorization of prize competitions, and public lotteries, the establishment of the National Lottery, the imposition and recovery of tax on betting and other forms of gaming, among other things. The bill seeks to repeal the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act, Cap 131, an act of parliament that has been in existence since 1966. The bill further seeks to address various inadequacies in the existing Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act. Madam Speaker, allow me to highlight a few key distinctions between the bill and the existing Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act. This bill addresses devolution, and in particular the role of county governments as provided under Part 2 of the 4th schedule of the Constitution, which also assigns the county governments a function on betting, casinos, and other forms of gambling, whereas the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act does not address devolution. Secondly, this bill establishes the National Gaming Authority with representation from the Council of County Governors, where the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act establishes the Betting Control and Licensing Board, whose membership excluded representation from the county governments. Thirdly, the bill addresses the issues of online gaming under Part 7 of the bill, something which is not addressed in the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act. Whereas the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act does not provide the National Lottery, this bill provides for the establishment of the National Lottery under clauses 70 to 78. And Part 9 of the bill provides for the conduct of the National Lottery. Madam Speaker, Part 10 of this bill establishes the National Lottery Distribution Trust Fund from clause 89 to 100, and the purpose of the fund is to retain and distribute the proceeds of the National Lottery, which will go to assist activities of good causes like sports. The Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act does not establish such a fund. Madam Speaker, the bill also establishes the Gaming Appeals Tribunal to resolve disputes between parties and for persons to appeal to it, whereas the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act provides for an appeal to the High Court, which may take a lot of time to resolve disputes. However, the committee will be proposing an amendment in the Committee of the Whole House to have disputes resolved by a Gaming Appeals Committee, which will be able to resolve disputes faster. Madam Speaker, also the bill has expanded provisions on various offenses, which are now stiffer, whereas the existing Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act, the penalties proposed in the existing act have been very low and non-effective. The penalties proposed in the bill the proposed bill fines range between 250,000 to 2 million shillings, whereas the ones in the existing betting lotteries and gaming act, they are non-punitive. They actually range between 3,000 to 10,000. So making it very difficult to control and regulate gaming in Kenya. Madam Speaker, public participation is a constitutional imperative. In this regard, the committee called for invitation of memoranda through the Daily Nation, Standard newspaper, and the Star on 17th June 2019, and they received memorandums from the Betting Control and Licensing Board, from the National Treasury, and from the Kenya Revenue Authority, the Communication Authority of Kenya, Directorate of Gaming and Betting, Nairobi County, the VELEX Advisory, the Kenya Charity Sweepstake, the Association of Gaming Operators Kenya, Game Code Limited, Ajawala and Kana, the White Rhino Ventures, Shop and Deliver, and the Gaming Awareness Society of Kenya. Madam Speaker, there were public hearings that the committee conducted in order to receive comments on the bill from stakeholders. The committee conducted public hearings in Mombasa County, Kwale, Kisumu, Nairobi, Kakamega County, Uasin Gishu County, Nyeri County, and Meru County. The committee received considerable representations on the bill, both through memoranda and public hearings it conducted. The committee also considered representations it received on the bill, and where it agreed to the proposed amendments, it indicated so, and where it rejected the proposed amendments, it gave its reasons. Madam Speaker, the committee also sent the delegations for study visits to the United Kingdom and the Nevada, Las Vegas in the US in order to learn best practices on the regulation of gaming with a view to enrich the bill. In the UK study visit that was conducted on 14th to 18th of October, the study visit had specific objectives. 1, to meet with the United Kingdom's Department of Culture, Media and Sports with a view to learn the United Kingdom's regulatory landscape on gambling, the role of the department in relation to gambling, its policy directions and future plans in the regulation of gambling. 2, to meet with the UK Gambling Commission in order to understand its functions, how it has discharged them, their challenges, and how they have addressed them, and their thoughts on the regulation of gambling. 3, to meet with the UK gambling-related armed whole-party parliamentary group with a view to learn the House of Commons lessons in the legislation of gambling, the function of the APPG, the advocacy role of the APPG, and its comments on the challenges and lessons on regulation of gambling. And 4, to understand the UK Gambling Act 2005 and other relevant legislation with a view to incorporate into the Gaming Bill 2019 solutions that may suit Kenya's circumstances. Madam Speaker, the delegation made very many observations which are going to make the basis for the amendments we are going to propose. Madam Speaker, out of the observations, the committee recommends that the gaming bill should be amended to include into the sources of funds for the National Gaming Authority fees charged upon gambling operators. Number 2, the gaming bill should be amended to require all licenses to make a financial contribution towards research, prevention, or education and treatment of gambling-related harm, especially the need to improve understanding of treatment needs and effectiveness and strengthen the voluntary system for funding. 3, self-exclusion, an option which customers can exercise by asking to be banned from gambling with an operator or group of operators should be provided for in the gaming bill. 4, there is need to provide in the gaming bill that if a licensee acts in a manner that is not appropriate in a different country, this may be a factor to be taken into consideration in the renewal or revocation of a license. 5, there may be need to further discussions on global regulation of gambling with a view to address cross-border issues on gambling. 6, the gaming bill should provide for personal licenses for key persons working for licensees. 7, Parliament may explore possibilities of establishing a parliamentary caucus on gambling-related harm in order to have structured dialogue on the negative consequences of gambling and how to address them. Madam Speaker, the committee observed the following during public participation and engagement with various stakeholders. The Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act, which is in existence, CAP 131, is an archaic, old piece of legislation which is outdated, and it needs to be repealed, and a new, robust legislation is needed to be enacted to regulate gaming effectively in Kenya. So that's why the committee thought it wise to come up with the Gaming Bill 2019 to address these inefficiencies. Madam Speaker, there was overwhelming views on the bill from stakeholders, with most stakeholders being of the view that the gaming industry needed to be regulated effectively. Madam Speaker, Kenyans have been confronted by runaway advertisements on betting and gaming. And the public we met across the country generally were complaining of receiving unsolicited messages to their phones, encouraging them to click into some application, and then immediately they start becoming gamblers. Because once that application, you click on it, you'll actually spend money and start betting. So many views of the public were that unsolicited messages need to be banned, and they were actually claiming somebody should be able to pay the price for sending such messages to unsolicited users. Number 2, the bill also really target protection of children from gambling. Clause 153 of the bill will actually help members to understand how the bill is going to protect children from the effects of gambling. Because when we went around, we found that, especially with the Chinese machines, which the Minister for Interior tried to mop around the country, the children were able to get money, even go to an extent of even stealing from their parents and go to play in those machines, those illegal machines. And most of the children would even fail to go to school and go to gamble the whole day. These illegal machines, we have in the bill, clause 110, made it a must that all gaming machines, all slot machines, should be located inside licensed casinos, where we are going to have government officers who are going to be able to monitor so that children don't access the gaming premises. We have also talked about the illegal gaming machine, the gaming machines being certified from their origin, so that we involve the KEBS and other authorities so that Kenyans cannot be conned by delivery of fake Chinese machines, which have actually found their way into the country and they are being assembled somewhere around Kericho. And the public were wondering, how did the port or the customs allow such equipment to come into Kenya without even taxation, and allowed this particular equipment to be assembled somewhere in Kenya and distributed almost in all the villages in Kenya. So generally we want to laud the Minister, Matiang'i, for the effort of mopping up those illegal machines and banning them. Although he experienced a lot of opposition by those illegal traders who usually got court orders trying to stop the ministry from destroying those illegal machines. Madam Speaker, the existing licenses for the Hold Act are very low. In fact, for an online gaming operator who actually bank up to billions, they just pay 500,000 per year. And that is the maximum. So we have tried to enhance the licenses, and we have also enhanced the securities, because for you to be able to operate a gaming industry, a farm, you need to have a security, to deposit a security with the authority, so that in the event a winner can be able to win substantial amount of money, we can be assured that you'll be able to pay that particular winner. In fact, the second schedule talks about the enhanced licenses. For casinos, we have talked about 50 million. From 500,000, we have enhanced it to 50 million. And for online sports betting, we have enhanced it to 100 million as the fee for the license. We have also proposed that in clause 34, that anybody trying to enter the industry must put up a standard farm which can actually conform with the international best practice, so that we don't have kiosks mushrooming across the country calling themselves casinos. So we wanted a capital which is going to encourage big investors to be able to come up with investment for a casino or for online business. Madam Speaker, as we did our public participation and as we did also our research, we also discovered that in Kenya we have had a lot of capital flight, because the online gaming came into Kenya and there were no proper structures in place and there was no legal framework. And so these operators really exploited Kenyans and the government at large, because it's like the government was caught unawares. And these guys really made a lot of kill, and most of the money collected from Kenyan players, most of it ended up in offshore companies. So Kenya may have lost a lot of money out of this, and because of this, we have suggested that every foreign investor who wants to operate a gaming industry should incorporate a Kenyan shareholder, so that to the extent of 30%, that is what we have proposed, that if a foreigner wants to establish an operation farm for gaming, he needs a Kenyan shareholder at the level of 30%. We had also proposed to have a mechanism known as a real-time monitoring and monitoring system, where the board will have servers and servers connected to the operators, which will be able to track all the betting events, the transactions, the monetary transactions from players into the to the operating company, so that KRA can also be able to access the amounts Kenyans have paid for the purposes of really knowing how much taxes to be able to levy. Madam Speaker, this one we decided as a committee because currently there are a lot of court cases between the operators and the government, just because the operators have been given the leeway to just declare what the turnover is or what amount of money they transact. But we thought during this era of technology, the government should come up with a system where they can be able to track and monitor all the transactions in real time, so that we can be able to get the correct taxes, and there will be no argument and unnecessary court cases on matters of taxation. We had also thought that the masses in Kenya are so much exposed to gambling through the mobile phone because of the sports betting, and Section 68 was actually like trying to ban the use of telecommunication platform as a means of betting. But the committee has actually proposed some amendment so that we may, because when you talk about telecommunication platform, that one is ambiguous, and you may not be able to really deal with that. We may be able to bring an amendment so that if it is banning the use of the mobile device as a means of betting, then we'll limit the access of most of the Kenyans to betting. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, the Gaming Bill 2019 will effectively regulate the gaming industry in Kenya better than the existing Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act, Cap 131 of 1966. Answers to this rallying call and duty, and I urge all members of this House to support this bill. The past attempts by this House to effectively regulate the gaming industry has been through various piecemeal amendments to the existing act. And this House, this structure, Mr. Speaker, has withstood all manner of repair of cracks on its wall, but there is a limit to how much you can repair an old, decrepit, defaced, sinking house. This bill, Madam Speaker, does not repair, but pulls down the entire edifice and builds a new, ultra-modern house that can let in the fresh air of the new changes happening in the gaming industry. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
You beg to move. Very well. Honorable Munyaka, the chairman, do you have a seconder to the gaming bill? Who is your seconder?
My vice chair, Dr. Corey.
Doctor?
Corey Lemaine.
Dr. Corey Lemaine for seconding the vice chairperson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to second this bill. And from the onset, Madam Speaker, I will like to indeed thank the chairman, my chairman, and the committee, Madam Speaker, for indeed putting up a lot of effort in coming up with this bill. Madam Speaker, it is true that this bill is a very important bill, and it's coming to really address a number of issues that has been a challenge to the people of this country. And Madam Speaker, when you look at indeed the objects and reasons for the same bill, Madam Speaker, it indeed shows that this bill, as it has been addressed by the chairperson, is a bill that has been there for a very long time, Madam Speaker, but it had a lot of challenges. And therefore, this bill is coming to address a number of them. And Madam Speaker, of course, as it has been put very well by the chair, this bill really has an impact also on the county governments. And as per the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And Madam Speaker, it has a number of parts that are indeed very important on matters this bill, Madam Speaker. It contains a provision for establishment of the Gaming Authority. Of course, Madam Speaker, this authority has got a number of determinants, because it has got at least members, Madam Speaker. It has got a Director General, and all this has to address the issues of qualification, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, again, it contains a provision for the licenses and permits, which in the older act has been a challenge, Madam Speaker. It also contains the provisions on control and licensing of betting. Madam Speaker, this is a whole provision in the new bill, and it was lacking in the older act. And that's why, Madam Speaker, you are seeing as the entire country, whether somebody is young or old, it was affecting almost everyone. This particular provision, Madam Speaker, really is going to address the same. Again, Madam Speaker, it contains a provision on control and licensing of lotteries. Madam Speaker, in the early act, all act, it doesn't even distinguish between a lottery or a betting. It was very difficult, Madam Speaker, in the older act. And this act has gone further now and really got the difference and be able to tabulate and see what is what, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it contains a provision for online gaming. Madam Speaker, the older act, which was a 1966 act, did not even imagine that there is what we call online gaming. And now, when it, in this 21st century, Madam Speaker, the world is changing and technology is really moving very fast. And in that sense, Madam Speaker, now the most challenging part of it, even to address, is online gaming. And Madam Speaker, this particular bill now proposes a number of issues that are going also to address the same, the online gaming. Madam Speaker, again, it contains a provision for establishment of a national Rotary. I may not even address much on this because the chairperson has addressed it, because the various visits that the committee has gotten an opportunity to be able to compare notes with the rest of the advanced world on gaming, it has really given out an address on the same. And Madam Speaker, it contains also the provision of the conduct of a national Rotary, per se. Madam Speaker, when you look at what we have in the Act, again, it does not really give the teething, it doesn't give the bill the teeth actually to bite if there are issues that are ill or that are affecting our people. And Madam Speaker, there is also the consent provision on the National Lottery Distribution Trust Fund, which also was done on the same. And Madam Speaker, a number of issues. Madam Speaker, if I may address the issues that we really got while we are going on the public participation. Madam Speaker, when we visited the coast region, the western region, the eastern region, and almost every single place we visited, Madam Speaker, in this country, while we are doing our public participation, the outcry of the Kenyan people were this particular gaming or betting has destroyed our children to an extent that children steal from their parents, and instead of going to school, Madam Speaker, they go betting, and then they just come in the evening. And even the so-called family values. We also realized that, Madam Speaker, that it went to an extent of really harming the family. That a man can get out of the home, and instead of going for to a job or to really go and struggle for the family, he goes for betting. And Madam Speaker, one of the unique part we learn in the course, that it went to a situation whereby a man can steal their wife's clothing to sell in the market, just for he to get a few coins to be able to bet. And Madam Speaker, this is a very unique thing when you look at it. And I really thank this committee because the kind of recommendation they have put in place. And Madam Speaker, because I also had an opportunity to visit one of the most advanced states on matters gaming. And Madam Speaker, in Nevada, gaming contributes almost 70% of the GDP. And what we learned, Madam Speaker, is they have professionalized gaming to an extent that even they have a university that has a department that manufactures gaming machines. And they are able to really look at it, be able to inspect these machines, Madam Speaker, on a yearly basis. So if there is, if somebody can try and tamper with the same, an inspection team can be sent to inspect the entire machines all over the state, Madam Speaker. And I think that is a very good observation that we are seeing on the same. And again, this issue of putting gaming machine everywhere, irrespective of, you put it everywhere. You know, they are put on specific areas, and you can only walk there if you are going to play the same. And Madam Speaker, these are some of the issues that we realize that as a country, we really need to look at it. Therefore, Madam Speaker, there are a number of amendments that are contained in a report that we tabled in the table of this House on 14th of this month. A number of them that we felt, if adopted by this House, this bill is going to be enriched further, Madam Speaker, to be able to really be a bill that is going to, one, address the ills that are prevalent at the moment, and two, Madam Speaker, it will become a business per se, an entity that is going to be productive and contribute to the GDP of this country. Madam Speaker, I second.
Members, with the motion have been moved and seconded, I now propose the question, which is that the Gaming Bill, National Assembly Bill number 38 of 2019, a second time. I see the member, Honorable Oduol Odhiambo, the first one to make a contribution to this.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to make a contribution on the Gaming Bill 2019. Madam Speaker, from the outset, I would indicate that I am a member of this committee, and I want to take the opportunity to thank my chair, Madam Speaker, who has very ably captured the soul of the country at this particular point in time. Madam Speaker, indeed, as has also been echoed by our Vice Chair, as a committee, Madam Speaker, we were concerned that as much as we might not want to address the culture, the practice of gaming, we needed to ensure that we responded to the cry, Madam Speaker, of people of all ages, but most particularly the family. Madam Speaker, as the saying goes, whenever we are to look at a nation or look at the world and determine where it is going to go, we need to look at children. And Madam Speaker, it is agreed that as the children go, so goes the family, so goes the nation, so goes the world. And Madam Speaker, when we look at the manner in which gaming and issues of gambling is currently practiced, Madam Speaker, as I think almost all Kenyans can bear witness to date, we have, Madam Speaker, a practice where it seems that one of the key, if you like, inductions or introduction of our young children as they go to school would be that they have to stop and look at, Madam Speaker, what they were calling China. There is the culture that was being inculcated in our children that they do not even need to try and engage in serious work. They do not even need to see whether it is important to work in school. And Madam Speaker, much more worrying is that they even lose the respect and sense of restraint that they had with regards to how they spend school fees or how they indeed spend monies that the parents send them with for different errands. Because, Madam Speaker, as was indicated by our chair, we were able to establish from the participation that we had from across regions in this country, and Madam Speaker, ranging indeed from those who are in authority, such as the cabinet secretaries, and dealing with those who are really in touch, Madam Speaker, on a day-to-day basis with the public, like the commissioners, regional commissioners, and indeed the chiefs, that the family, and in particular, the manner in which the children were now getting addicted, were getting acclimatized in an industry that did not seem to have any clear regulation was the basis for this gaming bill. And so, Madam Speaker, as I support this bill, I would want to point out that as a committee, our greatest concern was to see that this is an industry that is here with us. And our concern was that we need to provide a way by which the practice would be seen to be one that protects the interests, not only of the children and the family, but, Madam Speaker, even of those who would be engaging in the activity, because indeed we noticed that there were those who, of course, were saying that this is a way where they get employment. And so, Madam Speaker, we can see that in this bill, our greatest concern has been to ensure that we can provide an appropriate regulatory framework by repealing the betting, lotteries, and Gaming Act, Cap 131 of 1966. And Madam Speaker, we do this because we are aware that after 2010, we clearly now, in terms of our way of administration, in our way of governance, have a national and a county government. And Madam Speaker, the act that applied in 1966, in addition to not having capacity to deal with online betting, which is another serious menace, did not also recognize or take into account devolution. So in this particular bill, apart from ensuring that we are broadly and very specifically looking at the regulations that address that problems that we have, Madam Speaker, we can see that we are concerned about protecting the youth, and we are concerned about protecting the poor. We have a practice, Madam Speaker, where what it now seemed to determine is that people who are living below the poverty line, or those who do not seem to have a proper means of income, it looked as if the only thing that was left to them was gambling. And so it is extremely important that we have a proper framework that would protect the interest of these youths, of our children and the poor. Madam Speaker, as we can see, therefore, in the gaming bill, we are also ensuring that we would task betting companies, and we specifically recognize, Madam Speaker, that there are betting companies that after luring our citizens innocent, some of whom even take monies that was not theirs, which they borrowed, and in the event that they do indeed, in case of the gambling, win large amounts of money, we have found, Madam Speaker, that there were companies that would not honor to compensate them, and because we do not have a proper regulatory framework in place, they were getting away with it. Madam Speaker, we also note that we would like to ensure that we do not have a situation where the lack of clarity of specific roles and responsibilities between the two levels of government lead to a situation where those who are engaged in this activity are not clearly, monitored. We have clearly delineated roles for the national government and the county government. And Madam Speaker, what is particularly useful is that it is necessary that the county governments then know that they are the ones to enforce compliance of the Act and other applicable laws, and the county government would then therefore protect the citizens at that level, that the county governments would issue permits for premises. And Madam Speaker, we were indeed, in terms of our participation, told that there were cases where you would even find that personal premises or rooms in homesteads or very, very indeed some insecure areas were being used for this activity. And so, Madam Speaker, as I support this bill, I do it because we currently must recognize that the culture of gaming that we are accepting is one that is totally destructive. It is destructive because it is touching at the core of our most vulnerable, the poor, our children, our youth. It is destructive because it is one that benefits those who are from outside Kenya and truly just exploits the soul of our country. It is destructive because it seems to be a free-for-all that really can be engaged in by anyone at any level and without any repercussions or consequences. And it is destructive because we really do not have a clear mechanism with which to engage in real monitoring, real-time monitoring, and looking at online gaming that seem to really have caught and seem to be at the heart of our country. And so, Madam Speaker, I support this bill because it is a bill that is timely, it is a bill that is necessary, it is a bill that really, if we do not address, Madam Speaker, then we are going to find that we really no longer have a country, because we are going to find that because of our children who get addicted and who really lose money, and the breakdown of relationships between children and their parents, spouses, is going to be one that we cannot really afford. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I support the bill and urge the members of the House to take this with the seriousness that it calls for. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
You support. Very well. Let me have the Honorable Shamala Jennifer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this very timely bill. I really want to commend this particular committee for the work that has gone into this bill. I went through the reports, I have seen the report, and I've seen that it's really extensive. You've done a lot of public participation, and you really captured what the people of Kenya wanted. Indeed, it is a tragedy what is going on in this industry at the moment. Madam Speaker, I grew up in a world where, honestly, gambling was almost akin to prostitution. They were almost at the same type of sin. My mother would not even let us play with cards, and I understand why, because of the addictive quality of gambling. And I want to thank my mother, who is alive and here, her name is Stella, and she was very, very strict, and we couldn't even understand it. We were not even allowed to play with cards. I don't even know how to play with such cards, with a card game. And really, truly, truly, the people outside there, when they see the word, the gaming bill, they may think that we are endorsing gambling. No, we're not. What we're doing as a House and what this committee has done is it must be regulated. It has to be regulated. Even in the days when we were not allowed to play with cards, when we were not allowed to even enter casinos, in those days civil servants could not even enter casinos, were prohibited from entering casinos. And I know why, because it now becomes a place where you can be bribed, where you can be blackmailed, you know, issues like that. So it was there then. We had the charity sweepstake, which was about charity and for charity. And it is something that the people of Kenya must understand, is that it has to be regulated, like it is regulated in gambling capitals around the world. It is not that the parliamentarians want to promote gambling, but they've realized it must be regulated. It must be regulated, and I agree, they are hooking our children. They're hooking a generation of Kenyans who is the next generation, the chosen generation, just by the telephone. This thing of phones and unsolicited adverts must stop in this country. We get unsolicited adverts for pornography, we get unsolicited adverts for gambling, etc., etc. I also want to really commend the committee on its public participation. I've gone through the report, and like I said earlier on, they captured what the people of Kenya really wanted. And with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support.
Very well. The member, Honorable Osoti Godfrey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important bill. Madam Speaker, first I want to commend the Sports Committee for this very, very good work. I think if all committees worked like this will be a wonderful house. They have really done a good job. As Honorable Shamala says, there's very good, extensive public participation, and even the content is quite wide. But, Madam Speaker, I have several concerns to raise, which I think can be rectified by the committee before we go to the committee of the whole House. There are some inconsistencies in this bill, especially if you look at it from the context of other legislations that we have passed in this House. For example, this bill talks very little about the other legislations that are affected by some of these provisions. For example, the Sports Act. The Sports Act talks a lot about national lottery. I have looked through the bill. It doesn't provide for consequential amendments to the Sports Act, especially on matters like lotteries, matters like the fund, the so-called the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund. So I think...
yeah, thank you. The chairman, Honorable, don't distract the chair. I can see the chair and the vice chair and Honorable Shamala.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would wish the chair to listen to what I'm saying because it's very important. So we will require to harmonize some of the provisions in this bill against other legislation, particularly the Sports Act, on formation of a national lottery. Because the Sports Act talks about formation of a national lottery. This one again talks about formation of a national lottery. So I think it's important to look at the consequential amendments and also include that. The second aspect, Madam Speaker, is on the formation of the Gaming Authority. I have looked at the composition of the board members, and one major omission is that the industry is not represented in this authority. And I would suggest that maybe we need to be very specific on the 3 persons appointed by the CS. We need to be very specific on whose interest they are going to represent in the board, because it is not clear. It is so wide for the CS to choose any person without specific information as to which representation is that person going to represent. I have also looked at the financing of this authority. It is a bit silent on it. It's not clear how this authority will be financed. Yes, we may assume that it will be financed from the exchequer, but when it comes to operationalization, we may consider maybe funding it from the license fees or taxes and all that. So we need to be very specific on how this authority is going to be financed. Then again, Madam Speaker, there is going to be transition transition from the body that we already have, that is a betting control body, but we need to be very clear on all the specific issues on transition, especially when it comes to transition of staff from the old body to the new authority. It needs to be very clear, because recently, Madam Speaker, we passed in this House amendments to the Sports Act. And one of the amendments was that the National Sports Fund was going to be abolished to create a new fund called the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund. We agreed and we passed amendment to say that the staff affected will have to transition automatically to the new fund. Madam Speaker, I can report to this House that we have received complaints from the affected staff who used to work for the old fund that they are still at home, they have not been absorbed in the new fund, and I think this is a serious matter that borders on respect of the laws that we pass in this House. And I would wish that the committee needs to investigate this matter, because the staff were sent home in April. They have not been absorbed in the new fund. I am told the fund is being run by a CEO, one person. And yet this House passed a law to say there should be seamless transition to the new body. So I think the issue of transfer is very key. And when staff transition, they need to transition even with their benefits, like pension. It is, this bill is very silent on issues, benefits like pension. Madam Speaker, another very important issue is on the issue of license fees. As much as I agree with a number of people who are saying that we need to manage the negative effects of betting and gaming in this country, but we cannot set very high license fees, because this bill is proposing to set up very high license fees between 5 million to even 100 million for you to be licensed. And then in addition to that, after every 3 to 5 years, you are paying very high renewal fees. And then we also have charges on gaming security, which is also very high, up to 100 million. So, Madam Speaker, this is going to discourage investment in this sector. On one hand, we are asking for taxes, huge taxes from these companies. On the other hand, we are charging very high fees to set up this kind of companies in this country. So I think this country has to make a decision on whether we want to continue having this kind of business in this country or to completely shut up. Because it doesn't make sense to have this high cost, operational cost. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that these costs are high compared to international standards. The other issue is online gaming. I want to commend the committee for coming up with this provision, because before this law, we used to regulate those who do gaming and betting in this country. But people who do online betting and gaming were still in business. So that disadvantaged those who are doing business in this country, but those who have set up business outside the country were enjoying. But then, Madam Speaker, as much as I commend the committee for introducing this aspect in the bill, I also want them to also look at the inconsistencies in that section. Because when I look at section 68, Madam Speaker, it is outlawing the use of telecommunication service. We know that over 80% of Kenyans have access to mobile phones, and that's where they do all their operations online. So if you say you are going to outlaw use of technology, then how are you going to conduct this business? It's going to be very difficult. So the committee should look at that provision, which I think it is not necessary, and in this era of technology, I don't think it makes sense. Then the issue of restriction on the use of foreign servers. Madam Speaker, my background is in IT, and I can tell you that it's not practical for you to say you are going to restrict the use of foreign servers. We recently passed a law here called the Data Protection Law. It will deal with such issues that the committee is trying to remedy. Also the issue of communication authority to ensure that online gaming companies which are not licensed in Kenya should not operate. I think also that should also be looked at, because I support, but we will have to make some amendments so that we remove some of those ambiguities.
Very well. The Honorable Hosoti, you've just said it, that as you're aware of the procedure of the House, and you're also aware of what you're able to do in the House, you're at liberty to propose your amendments or sit with your committee. We just had the chairperson, as he was moving, saying that they have some amendments I will do propose that will be looked at during the third read, the committee of the whole. Then I think that would be enriching the House. So you are at liberty to do your proposals as individual, or approach the chairman and do as a committee. So that is already provided and is provided for in your own standing orders. There's this member. What is out of order? There's nothing out of order. What is out of a member for Funyula? Because the Honorable Osot has already finished his contribution.
Honorable Speaker, looking in the House and looking at the mood of the day, I stand on standing order number 35 to seek your guidance on whether we are properly constituted to debate and conclude in such an important bill as it is in the floor of the House today.
What is a proper constitution? What do you mean?
Honorable Speaker, the quorum, we might not have the necessary quorum to transact business as required under Standing Order 35. I seek your guidance, Honorable Speaker.
Are you looking at the mood of the House, or you are saying, you've just said the importance of the bill?
Honorable Speaker, without even going through electronic or complicated counting system, we can see that the numbers here are numbered. We do not have enough number to transact business as contemplated under Standing Order 35. So we seek your guidance on how to proceed in view of the importance of the matter at hand. In any case, all the matters before the House are important, but this could be extremely important, being such an emotive issue that requires proper debate and discussion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well, very well. From where I sit, members, and again, pass one to our own standing orders. The Honorable understood on standing order number 35, Constitution of the House. Therefore, call upon the quorum bell to be rung. Order. Honorable Member for Funyula, I hope your intention is not walking out of the chamber. That is not your intention, because as a matter of procedure, you cannot walk out of the chamber when the quorum bell is being rung. It's only the whips who are allowed to walk out of the chamber. With the members who are entering in, then just come in, the Honorable Angwenyi. I order that the quorum bell be stopped. Very well. Our members, again, guided by the same standing orders. We are not in a position to conduct, can hear Honorable Angwenyi shouting, not shouting, mentioning that there's a more coming, but the time that has been provided in our standing orders is has already elapsed. Our members, we have not been able to get the right quorum for us to transact business as raised by the Honorable Member for Funyula. And so, our members, the time being 6:14 p.m., the House stands adjourned till the Tuesday, 26 November 2019 at 2:30 p.m. I thank you all.